In 230 years, over $200 million have been spent digging a single hole on a single island. 6 men have died, and not one person has found what they were looking for. But here's what makes this different from every other treasure hunt in history. The deeper they dig, the older the evidence gets. Coconut fiber from the tropics, carbon dated to the 1200s, a lead cross traced to a French mine that closed in 1300, and gold, not from Europe, not from Nova Scotia, from South America. So someone was here, long before the first recorded settlers, long before anyone was supposed to be. The question isn't whether there's a secret on Oak Island. The question is whether anyone alive can reach it before the island takes its 7th life. This is Vanished Threads, and this is the Oak Island Money Pit. Some stories stay buried, we dig anyway. Oak Island sits off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. 40 hectares of forest, swamp, and one very expensive hole in the ground. In 1795, a 16-year-old boy named Daniel McGinnis found a circular depression in the earth, old ship's tackle hanging from a tree above it. He and 2 friends started digging. They found timber platforms every 10 feet. Then coconut fiber, a tropical material that has no business being in Canada. Then a stone with strange markings. At 90 feet, water flooded in. They never reached the bottom. In 1995, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution conducted the only independent scientific survey of the island. Their conclusion: the flooding was natural. Tidal pressure interacting with the island's geology. No booby traps, no engineered flood tunnels. Case closed. Except it wasn't. Because in the decades since, the evidence has only grown stranger. And in 2024, geoscientists detected gold, silver, copper, and zinc in groundwater samples from the money pit itself, at concentrations that cannot be explained by natural mineralization. So if the flooding is natural, why are the metals not? The money pit has consumed lives, not quickly, slowly, one obsession at a time. In 1965, a man named Dan Blankenship read an article in Reader's Digest about a cursed island in Nova Scotia. He was 44 years old. He sold his construction business in Florida, moved his family to Oak Island, and spent the next 54 years digging. He died in 2019. The 6th death, the treasure was never found. That same Reader's Digest article reached a boy in Michigan. Rick Lagina was 11 years old. He showed it to his brother Marty. They made a pact. Someday they would solve Oak Island. In 2006, Rick and Marty bought most of the island. They were not treasure hunters. Rick was a postal worker. Marty was an engineer. They brought science to a place that had known only obsession. But there is one man on Oak Island whose story almost no one tells. Samuel Ball was born into slavery in South Carolina. He fought for the British in the American Revolution in exchange for his freedom. In 1784, he arrived in Nova Scotia, a freed black man in a white colony. Ball bought 4 lots on Oak Island. He farmed, he fished, and somehow he became one of the wealthiest landowners in the region. He died in 1846 with no documented source of income beyond cabbage farming. His slave tag was found on Lot 24 in the modern era. Did Samuel Ball find something? Or was he simply a remarkable man in an unremarkable place? We will never know, but his tag sits in the evidence room, asking the same question. Fred Nolan was another kind of obsessed man. A surveyor who mapped the island for decades. He believed the trees and stones formed a perfect cross, a Templar symbol. He died in 2016, still certain the geometry proved everything. In 2024, archaeoastronomer Adriano Gaspani dated Nolan's cross to 1217. The island has taken 6 lives. William Kennedy drowned in 1861. Maynard Kaiser fell to his death in 1897. Robert Restall and his son Robert Jr. asphyxiated by fumes in 1965. Carl Grazer drowned the same year, and Dan Blankenship, who simply outlived his own obsession. Every one of them believed the next shovel would change history. Every one of them was wrong. And still the digging continues. Because here is what the skeptics never fully explain. In 2024, a 40,000-pound boulder was lifted by crane on Lot 8. Beneath it, archaeologists found a stone cradle bound with 3 distinct materials, including a blue-grey clay identical to the puddling clay used in the original money pit. The binder was dated to between the 1200s and the mid-1700s. Someone built this. Someone who understood engineering. Someone who had access to materials from 3 different centuries. And someone who never left a note explaining why. In 1795, 3 boys, Daniel McGinnis, John Smith, and Anthony Vaughan, stood at the edge of a circular depression on Oak Island. The depression was roughly 13 feet across. Above it, an old oak tree with a branch that had been cut. The kind of branch used to hang a block and tackle for lifting heavy loads. The boys were 16, 18 and 20 years old. They had no tools but shovels, and they began to dig. At 2 feet they hit a layer of flagstones, at 10 feet a platform of oak logs, at 20 feet another platform, at 30 feet another. The shaft was perfectly round, the sides were smooth, the platforms were evenly spaced. This was not the work of nature. Nature does not build in 10-foot intervals. At 40 feet they found a layer of charcoal, at 50 feet a layer of putty, at 60 feet more coconut fibre, the same tropical material that would later be carbon, dated to the 1200s, at 80 feet a stone with strange markings, and at 90 feet the water came. The water did not seep in, it surged, rising to the 33-foot level and stopping as if held by a valve. The boys could not pump it out. They had no pumps. They abandoned the pit, but they told everyone, and everyone came back. In 1803, the Onslow Company tried again. They reached 90 feet, the water returned. They tried to pump it out with a horse-powered pump. The pump broke, they gave up. In 1849, the Truro Company drilled alongside the pit. At 98 feet, their drill hit something soft. When they pulled it up, a gold chain link was wrapped around the auger. Then a man named Pitblado reached into the auger cuttings and removed something. He never showed it to anyone. He left the island and never returned. Some say it was a coin. Some say it was a jewel. No one knows. But the legend of Oak Island, and the suspicion that someone had already found something, began with that single moment. In 1897, the Oak Island Association drilled to 153 feet. They found parchment. At 160 feet, leather bookbinding. At 171 feet, they hit a cement-like substance. Then on March 26, 1897, a boiler explosion killed a worker. The 4th death, the treasure was still not found. For 2 centuries, the pattern has been the same. Dig, find something strange, hit water, hit bedrock, hit a collapse, spend more money, try again. And every time, the island gives just enough to keep the digging alive. But here's what the skeptics never fully explain. In 2024, a 40,000-pound boulder was lifted by crane on Lot 8. Beneath it, archaeologists found a stone cradle bound with 3 distinct materials, including a blue-grey clay identical to the puddling clay used in the original money pit. The binder was dated to between the 1200s and the mid-1700s. Notice what's happening. Every discovery should narrow the mystery. Instead, every discovery creates another one. The deeper they dig, the further back the timeline goes. The more they find, the less they understand. Someone built this. Someone who understood engineering. Someone who had access to materials from 3 different centuries. And someone who never left a note explaining why. Let us be precise about what has been confirmed, because precision is the only weapon against the noise of 2 centuries of speculation. Non-native activity predates 1795. This is not theory. The Mi'kmaq, who inhabited Nova Scotia for thousands of years, did not quarry stone, forge iron, import coconut fibre, or mint Portuguese coins. When these materials appear with scientific dates preceding the money pit's discovery, researchers argue that non-native groups were present long before the story officially begins. The evidence does not cluster around one theory. It clusters around 2 distinct time periods, the 13th to 14th centuries and the 16th to 18th centuries, with materials from at least 4 continents. This is not the work of pirates. Pirates do not build 460-foot cobblestone roads. This is not the work of nature. Nature does not deposit South American gold alloy at 90 feet. But here is the contradiction that breaks every theory. If the Templars buried treasure here in the 1300s, why are there 18th century British military buttons? If the British military built this in the 1700s, why is there 13th century coconut fibre? If it is all a natural sinkhole, why are there human remains from 2 continents at 162 feet? In 2024, Dr. Krista Brosso at St. Mary's University confirmed that the gold-copper alloy fragments from borehole D2 and borehole CD4.5 contained copper typical of gold that originated in South America. The composition is consistent with either pre-Columbian tumbaga or Spanish colonial rose gold from between 1550 and 1700. Dr. Ian Spooner and Dr. Fred Michaels' groundwater testing program detected elemental silver attached to clay particles in 2 separate boreholes in the Money Pit area. Non-natural source. Their hypothesis: submerged wood acts as a natural filter for dissolved metals. Of 15 wood samples tested, the wood from Shaft 2A returned the highest silver reading and the 3rd highest gold reading ever recorded on the island. But here is what no one can explain. The gold and silver are in the water. The water is natural. The metals are not. So either someone dissolved treasure into the groundwater over centuries, which is chemically implausible, or the metals are leaching from something solid somewhere deeper that no one has reached yet. The current understanding, developed across seasons 9 through 13 of the modern search, is that the original shaft collapsed into a natural geological feature called a solution channel, a cavity in the island's anhydrite and gypsum bedrock. Whatever was deposited in the money pit may have fallen through this channel, and now rests at depths of 150 to 220 feet or deeper, mixed with collapsed timbers, clay, and the debris of every failed recovery attempt since 1803. 5 caissons were sunk in season 13. None reached design depth without complication. None recovered treasure, but Dr. Spooner's XRF analysis of solution channel sediments confirmed elemental silver in 2 boreholes. The treasure, if it exists, may be beneath 200 feet of collapsed, waterlogged ground, and the only way to reach it may destroy it in the process. In the 1897 excavation, searchers found parchment at 153 feet, leather bookbinding at 160 feet. The theory that Sir Francis Bacon buried Shakespeare's original manuscripts on Oak Island has almost no supporting evidence. But the parchment is real, the depth is real, and no one has explained what a book was doing 160 feet underground on an uninhabited island. The evidence is not missing. The evidence is overwhelming. What is missing is the story that connects it all. Look at the timeline. 1200s, 1300s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1795, 1803, 1849, 2024. The artifacts don't belong to one century, they belong to 6, and they all point to the same hole in the ground. Theory 1. Natural sinkhole. The natural sinkhole theory, most thoroughly argued by skeptic Joe Nickell, proposes that the money pit is simply accumulated debris in a limestone cavity. The platforms are fallen trees washed in by storms. The flooding is tidal pressure through natural fissures. The coconut fibre floated in from shipwrecks. The coins were dropped by later visitors. It is the simplest explanation, and it fails on almost every piece of hard evidence. A sinkhole does not produce a 40,000-pound boulder with a man-made stone cradle. A sinkhole does not deposit human remains from 2 continents at 162 feet. A sinkhole does not concentrate South American gold alloy at 90 feet. The Woods Hole study explained the flooding. It did not explain the artifacts. Theory 2. Knights Templar. Order of Christ. The Templar theory is the strongest circumstantial case. The 13th century dates fall precisely within the Templar era. The lead cross traces to a French mine that closed around 1300, a Templar heartland. The Portuguese Torns coin was minted under King Ferdinand I, patron of the Order of Christ, which inherited Templar assets. Nolan's cross is dated to 1217, the Lot 5 round feature to 1236. A goose paw carving matches documented Templar pilgrim marks in the Azores and Italy, but no direct Templar artifact has ever been found. No seal, no document, no weapon. The theory requires a transatlantic voyage in the 1300s, possible given the Norse precedent but not historically documented, and it does not explain the 18th century British military artifacts, the 17th century Spanish coins, or the South American gold. If the Templars built this, who else has been here? Theory 3. Spanish, Portuguese maritime activity. Spanish coins from 1598 and 1652, a Portuguese coin from 1369, a Birot-type decking spike matching Spanish galleon hardware, dry stone walls matching Azorian construction from 1470 to 1475, an iron deck spike identified as unmistakably Portuguese by archaeologist Tiago Rodrigues. Stone shots attributed to Portuguese Azorian origin by Dr. Robert Rayside. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to chart the Nova Scotia coast. The evidence for their presence is not circumstantial, it is physical. But why would 16th or 17th century mariners dig a 200-foot shaft? The scale of the money pit exceeds any known maritime cache. Pirates buried chests in shallow sand. Navies built forts on coastlines. No one dug 200-foot shafts with timber platforms and flood tunnels to hide a few bags of coins. The Portuguese theory explains the artifacts. It does not explain the engineering. Theory 4. British military. 7 Years' War. British naval officer's button from 1804 to 1825. 18th century military artifacts. A French military cap badge from the Duc d'Anville expedition of 1746. The British theory explains the later artifacts. It cannot explain the 13th century coconut fibre. Theory 5. Shakespeare manuscripts, Sir Francis Bacon. Parchment at 153 feet. Leather bookbinding at 160 feet. Bacon was a cryptographer. The theory is romantic. The evidence is a few scraps of material that could be anything. Credibility 2 out of 10. Theory 6. Samuel Ball's secret. Samuel Ball, freed slave, wealthy landowner, 4 lots on Oak Island, no documented income. The theory is intriguing. The evidence is biographical, not archaeological. Ball never lived over the money pit, he never dug, he simply farmed, fished, and died rich. Credibility 3 out of 10. And then there is the possibility no one wants to consider, that Oak Island is not one mystery but many, layered on top of each other across centuries. The Templars, or someone like them, in the 1200s, the Spanish or Portuguese in the 1500s and 1600s, the British military in the 1700s, each group finding something, adding something, leaving something, and none of them understanding what the others had done. If this is true, then the money pit is not a vault. It is a palimpsest, a manuscript written over so many times that the original text is lost beneath the layers, and we have been reading only the most recent handwriting. Perhaps the most unsettling fact is not that 6 men died searching for treasure on Oak Island. It is that after 230 years, over $200 million, and the full weight of modern science, nobody can say with certainty what is buried there, or whether anything is buried there at all. The island gives just enough evidence to keep the digging alive. A coin here, a fragment there, a reading that suggests gold in the water, and then nothing. The earth closes up, the water rises, the next shovel hits bedrock, and the mystery remains exactly as it was. Perhaps everyone searching for gold has been asking the wrong question. Maybe Oak Island was never built to hide treasure, maybe it was built to hide history, and after 2 centuries that history has proven far more valuable than any answer we could dig up. If you think Oak Island is the strangest mystery ever dug out of the earth, wait until you discover the ship that was found perfectly intact with dinner still on the table and not a single crew member left on board. The Mary Celeste, coming next on Vanished Threads. Some stories stay buried, we dig anyway. Subscribe to Vanished Threads, new mysteries every time.